Welcome to Financial Revelations Podcast, version 3. And today, I just want to remind people that you could catch us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Lisbon, all those places. I don't know what half of them are, but my marketing department does, so they assure me that you can get me there. So give it a shot. Now, it's a holiday week, so I'm dressed down today because all people who manage money, they don't wear suits this week. But the funny thing is, I didn't wear a suit last week either. So what I want to talk about today is a couple of things. Number one, I want to talk about the 9 financial mistakes to avoid with your money. And these are things that I have seen common threads of people over time since I've been in this business, which has been over 29 years now, where I can see them, I can see these things happening. If we could get in the way of them before they happen, you're going to be much better off, because it's way easier to start your finances off right than it is to come back later and fix them, because there's a lot of work to do if we don't get it right the first time. Now, if you don't get it right, if you haven't gotten it right, I don't want you to get discouraged, because they are fixable. I have had people come to my office who were here to declare bankruptcy, and after I talked them out of that, showed them how we could do it, they really did a great job with their finances. So it's never too late. There's hope for everybody, and I don't want you to lose hope. So let's go. The 9 things to avoid with your money. The number one thing that you have to have if you're going to be successful in finances, and the thing that you have to avoid, is operating your finances without a budget. You cannot run successful finances without a budget. And if you look at a Fortune 500 company, they could tell you how much they're going to spend on paper clips and paper and supplies and salaries and sick time and all this stuff, because it's all budgeted. That is critical when you run your finances as a household. And I want you to think of your house as a mini corporation, and whoever pays the bills, they're the chief financial officer, the CFO. And together, usually a husband and a wife, together they're going to decide where we're going to spend money, what we're going to do, how much we're going to save, where we're going to go on vacation. It's like the board of directors. So you got to operate this household like a little corporation. And no corporation operates without a budget, and neither should you. So I want you to have a budget. The mistake to avoid is not having a budget. You must have a budget. The number 2 thing that I see most frequently, and this is so common, it's always saddening when I see it, but there is a way out, and it's credit card abuse. When I first got married, I was going to run a balance on my credit card. My wife got a hold of the statement. She said, "No, you're never going to do that." I have never run a balance on a credit card since that date, and that is the way to keep credit cards from getting ahead of you. Now, there are some people in finance who say you just shouldn't own a credit card. Well, that is a bunch of hooey. You should probably own a credit card. Now, there are some people who maybe they shouldn't own a credit card. They're never going to be responsible enough. They're never going to take control of the credit card, so it kind of takes control of them. They shouldn't own a credit card, but everybody else should own a credit card. It helps you build your credit score, for one thing, because you're going to use it, you're going to pay it off. Here's the secret to credit cards. Whatever the balance is at the end of the month, and I don't care what it is. If it's 58 cents, pay the bill. If it's 5,800, pay the bill. If it's 58,000, pay the bill. The very first time you cannot pay that bill, alarm bells should be going off in your head. Literal alarm bells saying, "I have a problem. I can't pay my bill." You're not going to use that credit card again until the bill is paid in full. Now, if that took you 3 months to pay that bill, you're not going to use that credit card. This is a discipline you must have. Otherwise, credit card companies will own you. And that's a real thing. The third thing to do, the third mistake to avoid, is thinking you do not have enough to invest. When I first started in business, you used to have like a couple of $1,000 to put into a mutual fund before they would take your money. Now, they'll start with $25 a month as long as you're contributing on an ongoing basis, and you can stop anytime you want. So anybody with a little bit of money can start investing for the future. The important point here is, at the beginning, it's not really what you're saving. It's the habit of saving that I want to build. So I want you to build a habit of saving. I want you to build a habit of thinking of the future, saving for the future, and we'll worry about the amounts later. I want you to start with an amount that's easy to do, that you're not going to come back to me and say, hey, by the way, you just took my milk money. I don't want to take your milk money. So if it's $25 a month that you start with, that's where I want to start. And then from there, we will build on that, because you're going to have a budget. You're going to be using your credit cards wisely. See, these things are all building blocks. They're all building on each other. It's like when you build a house. You don't start with the roof, you start with the foundation. The budget is your foundation. Good credit cards, a little bit higher up the foundation, starting to save. Now you're working on the walls. The next mistake that I want you to avoid is always thinking short term. And people who think short term are afraid of risk. So when somebody comes to me and they're 40 years old and they're like, hey, I don't want to lose any money. I say, well, that's good, because I don't have any clients that want to lose money, but I do have clients that want to make money. And the only way to make money long term is to take a little risk. Now, does it have to be silly risk? No, it doesn't have to be silly risk. I only want to take the amount of risk I need to get the rate of return that we want. So if somebody said, well, I want 40% a year, guaranteed. I can't do that. I can't guarantee a rate of return. I certainly couldn't guarantee that. That'd be great if we did it. But the truth be told, the people that I've had with me for decades, literally decades, when you look at their accounts and they've been growth-oriented, not risky, but growth-oriented, and their accounts have averaged what they've averaged, they have made a lot of money, a lot of money. You don't need to make 40% a year. You're not going to make 40% a year. But I need you to be thinking long-term. It's okay to take a little bit of risk. It's okay to be growth-oriented. You're going to be fine. The fifth mistake to avoid in managing your money is not having an emergency fund. Here's what happens. Somebody doesn't have an emergency fund. They're investing with me. And all of a sudden they have what? An emergency. And they need to come to me for money because they didn't have any in the bank. So every one of my clients has an emergency fund. What should your emergency fund be? A rule of thumb would be 3 to 6 months of your have-to expenses. So if you lost your job, you're not going to be going out to eat every night. That's not a have-to expense. And if you continue to do that, then we need to talk about your spending habits. Also, because you need to circle the wagons when things get tight. So if your transmission breaks, that's the emergency fund, then you replace it. The idea is that when you have an emergency fund, you don't need to go to the market to get money out to pay a bill that you have to pay, because probably the market's going to be down when you need to do that. And so I want to avoid that. If the market's down and we don't want to take money from there, you're going through your emergency fund. The sixth thing that I need you to avoid in managing your money, now it's a strange one, but it's a real one, especially in the world that we live in. You got to get and stay educated. Now that doesn't mean you have to have a college degree, but it does mean you have to have some kind of trade or specialty. You have to, it's like football. You ever watch a football game and first down, the defense runs some guys in. Second down, half the team runs out, half the other team, they run in. Third down, they switch out a bunch. It's an age of specialization. And that's what I want you to be. I want you to be valuable to somebody. I want you to get and stay educated. I want you to make them need you so that you're the last person that gets laid off. You're the last person that loses their job. And the only way you do that is to make yourself valuable. So make yourself valuable. The seventh mistake to avoid, and I know I'm running through these things, but you can always call me, you can email me, we're going to put up that information. I want your questions. I want to answer the things that you're thinking about. And these are the things that I see all the time, so that's why I'm answering it today. But I want you to stop focusing on depreciating assets. So your house is not a depreciating asset, but I don't want you to overspend on it. A depreciating asset would be a vacation. Now I like vacations. I like spending time together as a family, but you don't need to go to the Taj Mahal every year. You don't need to go to Disney every year. There's a lot of things that you could do. So work on your budget. Save money for that. Cars, depreciating asset. The car that you bought yesterday, it's probably worth $2,000 less today. One, you drove it, you already spilled a milkshake in it, and cars depreciate anyway. So if you're going to make cars your focus, realize you're losing money on day one. You're losing money. Don't put your focus in depreciating assets. Number 8 mistake to avoid when managing your money is not having your estate organized. You got to have a will. In Ohio, where I'm speaking from, if you die without a will, and this is most states, Louisiana is a little bit different because they operate in a whole different set of laws, but in any other state, if you die without a will, you die what's called intestate. The state is going to decide what happens to your estate. And you don't want that to happen. So you need to have a will. You could write a will on the back of a napkin if you wanted to. I don't necessarily suggest it. I would probably hire an attorney to write a will because they're going to think about the things you don't think about. And you need somebody to kind of prod those questions. Now, that attorney might also recommend a trust for you. And it's not a bad idea to think about. Usually costs about $2,000 for a simple trust, but there are things that you could do outside of a trust. For instance, you could have your house be transferred on death. You don't need to put that in a trust. You could have your bank accounts transfer on death. You could have your brokerage account be a transfer on death. And you also need durable powers of financial and attorney and durable powers of health attorney. So that if you're in a coma or incapacitated, somebody could make those decisions for you and have access to accounts. If you don't do that, now we got to go to probate. It's going to take a long time. And I'm virtually could guarantee this. You're not going to like it, okay? The bank can't talk to you. The brokerage account can't talk to you. Nobody can talk to you. So you got to go to probate to get that permission to go into those accounts, and that's going to take time. The number 9 thing to avoid with your money is not having the correct insurance. You know, having been in this business for almost 30 years now, I have seen when families are properly covered when there's a death in the family. And no death is ever expected. Okay, that you may know that you're going to die at some point in time. We don't know when. So you've got to take care of the things that God has blessed you with. If you have a stay-at-home parent who's raising kids, you need insurance on that working spouse. You need insurance on that stay-at-home spouse too, because you know the value of what they're doing at home is probably $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And a lot of people say, well, my family will help out. And that's true. They will help out for a little while, but they've got their own lives to live. So I need you to be thinking about this. Some of the most interesting conversations I've had in business is when I'm talking about insurance with somebody and the working spouse says, oh, we don't need that much insurance. And I'll just say something like, well, what is it that you don't want them to have after you're gone? If we could just make a list. And then I sit back and I watch a battle ensue because the stay-at-home spouse, they want to be covered. And so I need you to be doing the right thing. Now, there's a lot of ways you could do this. It doesn't need to be super expensive. You can use term insurance if you use it the right way with some permanent insurance. So I like those things. But you've got to take care of this, especially while you're young, because as you get older, insurance gets more expensive. You might get sick. It gets more expensive. The younger, the better. Now, I know when you're young, you have no money. I get it. I was there. When I was newly married, we had just bought a house. We had a kid, got a free dog. We had free dog Christmas because we had no money. My wife and I would give each other $5 a week to spend however we wanted. And it didn't, you could imagine how far $5 would go in 1992. It wasn't that far, but we did it. Now, those are the 9 things. I have this in print. I could email it out to you. I would be more than happy to do that. There's a little bonus wisdom here. Look, when you do these things, when you're setting up your finances and your portfolios and your insurance and your budget and all this stuff, if you do it right from the beginning, if you sink your heart into it, if you do it with all your heart, it's going to work out great. And yeah, there's going to be some sacrifice on the front end for a huge benefit on the back end. I got to tell you, I have seen these things work. So whatever you do in this, do it with all your heart. Put your might into this. Work as a team. One of the things that I love about my wife is we've always worked as a team on finances. We have this simpatico on finances that is unique. You could have that too. So you got to give in a little bit here and there. You got to be flexible. You got to be willing to set your pride aside. Not always easy for people. Not always easy for me, but my wife is really smart with money. She's really good with the details. And that's been a huge blessing in my life and our financial life. So, look, it's Thanksgiving week. This is going to post after Thanksgiving. But I want you to do something for me. This last year has been like 10 years of my life, right? We've gone through COVID, the presidential election, all this stuff is going on. It's been a tough year for a lot of people. And maybe it's been a tough year for your family in particular. Maybe you've lost somebody that you love, that you know that they're close to you. And they're gone. Maybe it's COVID. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you couldn't go visit them in the hospital, which is one of the saddest things I've seen. Look, for everybody out there, and you're going to hear this message a lot, but the things that you could be thankful for, hold on to them. Grip them tight. let people know. I was going to write this down because I know I get a little teary-eyed when I'm talking about it, but my family is really important to me. And them knowing how important they are to me is also very important to me. And I don't want to, after a year like this, I don't want to waste this opportunity. So you're going to sit down and have turkey and get stuffed and probably take a nap. Do something more. Reach out to people. Look for somebody who's hurting and maybe reach out to that person if you can. But make this a Thanksgiving that will be remembered for a long time. And we're going to get through this. We're going to, whatever happens with the presidential election, we're going to get through that. Whoever the president is, the country goes on. That's the greatest thing about America is we go on. There's a lot of countries that don't, and they have a less than peaceful transition. This is going to all be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to drive on. We're going to be able to make money no matter who the president is. And I'm looking forward to the Christmas edition of Financial Revelations. Now, you can email me right about here, or maybe it's right about there. Once this recording is over, I'm out. I don't do anything. I got people for this. My people are good. So they put numbers there. They put numbers here and emails, and they'll tell you about, I'm looking at a board right behind you guys. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Lisbon. I don't even know what Lisbon is, but apparently I'm there. And I want you to be there. I want you to email me questions. I want you to call me with questions. We're going to put our 1-800 number up this time. Okay, it's 1-800-344-2534. 1-800-344-2534. You can call here anytime, leave a message. We'll take it. And if we like your question, we're going to answer it. If we don't like your question, we're going to pretend like you never called. That's what we do. So we love you guys. Have a great Thanksgiving. Make it something to remember in a good way. Okay, so when you sit down at Thanksgiving, don't talk politics. There's no need for it. Not going to change anything except make people mad. I am committed to not talking politics. And you know how much I love to talk politics, so that's a big step for me. I want you to do it too. Happy Thanksgiving. We love you guys.